United States of America. Unity and oneness is what we're made of. One nation under God, it's plain to see. We're showing the whole world what a country should be. United we stand in America, hand in hand in America. Together as one in a land that we love. United we stand in America.
Morning, everyone out there. Welcome to Changing Times. It is Wednesday, March the 4th, show number 281, and we are live at the Axe Media Group headquarters in Springfield, Missouri. It started raining a while ago and raining really hard. I sat outside for about 15 minutes and watched it rain real hard on my car and didn't get too wet when I got out. But we're going to get a lot of rain in southwest Missouri. I am Lynn Morris. As you can see, our co-host is still Mary. Dr. Mary Byrne is still not here, working every week up in Jefferson City, Monday through Thursday. And we have our good friend Alex Bryant. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me again.
Well, I tell you what, I really appreciate you being here today. We've got I think it's going to be an interesting show. You might want to get a pencil, pen, and get some paper. You might want to write down some notes. And before we get started, I'm inviting you, Axe Ministry is inviting you to send us your thoughts. Send us your comments. What would you like to hear in the next few weeks? If you would email us to 4321-ACTS, ACTS, at gmail.com. 4321-ACTS at gmail.com. We would love to have your responses. We'd love to do that. We can talk about anything in the world that you want us to talk about. And we know that we have viewers all over this country. And so we would love for you to do that. And Alex, just a little bit. I know all about you, but some of these people, even though you've been on our show several times, just a little bit about you.
Well, I am a licensed minister with the Assemblies of God. My wife and I, we started our own ministry where we travel and we talk about reconciliation. We started that about 6 years ago. We reconcile people to God, ourselves, and each other, and we do it through written, spoken, and media content. If you want to connect with me, alexbryant.org, alexbryant.org. We have a podcast, we do a blog, we write books, and we do media. So my wife and I, we've been married 30 years, not quite as many as you, but and we have 5 kids, and so that's us.
I tell you, and the thing I love about you, Alex, is that you are a positive person. You're a positive person.
Try to be.
And honestly, your life is going to be so much better if you're a positive person. And one of the ways that you can be a positive person is to know Jesus Christ, to have Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. And at this time, with the way the world is going, everyone needs God. And now's the time, if you are lost and you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, you need to do that, okay? Very positive person. He also ran for U.S. Congress. He would have made an awesome U.S. congressman because he has the temperament, the education, the background of everything that this country needs right now. And I just want to tell you that.
Thank you.
I think you would have been awesome. But what we're going to talk about today, I think, is very timely. We're going to talk about what is going on today. What is going on today? We're going to start local down in the area of southwest Missouri, and then we're going to go up to state level. We're going to go up to the federal level. Around the world, there's a lot of stuff going on today, and I'm going to just start it out a little bit about my own county and Alex's county, because we both live in Christian County. You're on the school board at Nixon.
Yeah, I am.
And I tell you what, that's an important position. You know, if you're not on some kind of board or some kind of nonprofit, I'm telling you, you need to get involved. You need to do something for other people, and that's how you do it. You run for some office, you volunteer for a nonprofit. There are so many important things that you can do, and you can be a difference maker. This gentleman's a tremendous difference maker. We're all trying to be difference makers, and you can be a difference maker if you'll do that. But I'll just tell you, last week in Christian County, I've lived there since 1977 when I moved from Greene County to Christian County. And in the history of our county, which is over 100 years old, Christian County, we have never had an officer, whether it be a police officer or a county deputy, we've never had someone killed. We've had people shot, but we've never had anyone killed. And this last week, we had an experience in Christian County where we had 2 deputies killed and 2 deputies wounded. And I just wanted to say a few comments about that. It was probably one of the saddest times that I've experienced in my life. And at the same time, I was thinking about this. How can it be so sad, and how can you be so proud at the same time? Because there's so much different between those two feelings. But I'll tell you, from the start, that happened on Monday afternoon, late Monday afternoon, when I left the courthouse at 4:30. I just had heard about that the officer had been shot. We didn't know that he had been killed making a routine stop. But then we found out that later on, I got a call from our sheriff, Brad Cole, and he said, we've got the man cornered. We know exactly what outbuilding he's in. He deserted his car. He ran to an outbuilding, and we've got him circled. We got over 100 deputies around. We've got him surrounded. And he told me at that time, he said, I hope that the scumbag, that's what he called him, the scumbag will come out and throw his arms and we can arrest him. That's what he told me. And he didn't do that.
No.
When he had a chance to come out and throw his weapons out and come out with his hands up, when he came out firing. That's not going to work out too good, one man against 100 people, and so he got shot and killed. But in the meantime, he shot and killed another deputy, so now he had lost 2 deputies, and he also wounded 2 deputies. So pretty evil, and we have a world full of evil people. But then I saw all these people. We had law enforcement from California.
Yeah.
We had law enforcement from almost every state. We had first responders. We had just so military, because both of these, a 30-year-old deputy and a 40-year-old deputy. How young is that? How young is that? And they gave their life serving and protecting us. And I thought to myself, they knew what they were doing. They took an oath to protect us in Christian County, and they did that. But one of the things that I also noticed, they both were veterans.
Yeah.
And I respect our veterans so much. And we can never do enough in this country to honor and respect our veterans. I almost think we need Veterans Day every day instead of once a year, because our veterans are so important. But these 2 gentlemen at 30 and 40 had both served the military before they became a deputy. One was an Army and one was a Marine. Both of them served 6 years, and part of that time was in combat, and then they were in reserves after that. My gosh, what a sacrifice and the time they spent defending our country. And so these were just very unique people. And then I look at Brad Cole, our sheriff, and I start watching him Tuesday afternoon at a press conference. The governor was there. Governor Kehoe was down. There was lots of TV cameras and there were several hundred people gathered around. And the 2 deputy cars were lined parked inside our grounds, which we don't allow cars inside our grounds around the courthouse. We've had some damage before, but Brad Cohen called me Tuesday morning and asked me, he said, can I park the two deputies' cars in the grounds facing the sheriff's office, and we will be decorating with flowers. And I didn't know how many flowers. That press conference that afternoon at 2:00, we had about a dozen on each car, bouquets of flowers, and they were just beautiful. But today, if you drove to our square today, you couldn't even hardly see the cars.
Right.
There are hundreds and hundreds of flowers and plants and things all around the cars, on top of the car. It's just amazing the honor and tribute that we showed those two men. And Brad did a tremendous job at that press conference. And because I know the number one thing that all owners of businesses, and especially a sheriff in the type of dangerous business that he's in, he would rather simply retire after his career and never have a lost person. He didn't want to lose any of his deputies. I know that that's the type of person. And I know that when I listened to him, we had visitation, and we're at James River Church, the largest church in the area. It's the only place that we could accommodate some of the crowds. They had about 25,000 people. If you count everybody alongside the road, you count the service outside on the parking lot, that's the military part of it. And then you talk about inside the service, you talk about the visitation the day before. It's just amazing. The governor came back down for visitation. I talked to Governor Kehoe again. We had Governor Parson, our past governor. We had all kinds of people coming to pay their tribute. So just a tremendous thing. We learned a lot about it. It'll take time to heal. But I was really proud of the county I live in to respond in that way. And we made a negative into a positive.
Yeah.
And sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen. You live in Nixa too, so what did you think about everything that went on?
Yeah, it was sad, when the officers were surrounding this scumbag is the word I guess Sheriff Cole used. That night, I was watching. I don't have a police scanner, but I was watching Facebook, and one of the people in one of our Facebook groups was kind of giving us a play-by-play, and you just hate to see that. I was at the funeral, and it's just beautiful. It was honoring. It was heartfelt. It was. You just think about it, and that's when I first learned that they both served our country, and. Lives gone too soon, left behind children and wives and family members. But it was a beautiful thing. I remember being in that room and just looking out over the crowd. I actually sat in the balcony. And it was crazy getting in too, and I loved it. I loved that there's just so many people that wanted to get in, and then I actually went to the side of the road and saw them drive by. It's 50 minutes worth of police cars.
It took almost an hour.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, and I was watching those other first responders in the room, and people in their military and their police uniforms, and just thinking. These men are the best that we have, and these are people who, if something were to happen, they run towards the bullets instead of away from them. And I wrote a little something about it. I put it on my Facebook, and it's called "They Not Like Us." And
I saw that.
People ask me,
in fact,
"Well, why?"
Actually, I shared your comments.
People wonder where I got that from. It was, if you remember last year during the Super Bowl, the speaker or the performer. He had Kendrick Lamar. He had that song "They Not Like Us," and people have taken that to kind of use it to divide really our country, and just to talk about, how some people aren't like us, and it just became a racial thing, like where black people are like, well, they're not like us, whatever. And so I thought immediately, man, it took me. My mind went to these police officers and these first responders, how they serve. They're really not like us, because the average person, we cower. We run away from bullets. We hope somebody comes to protect us, but they are running towards it. They're ready to serve. They're ready to protect. They're not, and there's sometimes they're warriors that are silent. Sometimes they're carrying baggage and issues and problems that we don't even know about. Sure. These men aren't breaking down, and these are people that are here to serve and protect, and I'm thankful for them. And I said we need more like them.
Well, I tell you what, and you're exactly right, Alec. I want to challenge everyone that's watching this morning that Alex is right. Law enforcement, I've thought about this a lot. I knew it, but I've thought about it a lot since this happened. The difference between probably 90% of our population out there and the 10% that are law enforcement and military, whatever they do, they're going towards the danger. When there's guns fired, rockets, whatever, any kind of earthquake or any danger that's out there, we got all kinds of things going on. They're going towards the danger. They're going towards the problem. And everybody else, Alex, just like you said, is running away from it. That's just human nature.
That's human nature.
That's human nature. You want to take your kids on both hands and you want to run away and protect them. But those officers that serve all over this country, they're not running away, okay? Do they want to die? Do they want to not come back to their family that night? No. They want to protect us and do the job, the oath that they took and swore that they would honor that oath. But on the other hand, they don't ever run away. They actually run and try to protect us. Go to the danger. And that's the big difference. So for the folks out there, and I know there's people out there watching today, that you may not like law enforcement. You may not like ICE. You may not like some of the highway patrol if you get a ticket. You may not like some of the things that they do. But let me tell you what, try going 24 hours without law enforcement.
Yeah.
We've already seen parts of our country that have sanctuary cities that don't honor any laws and lets people that have murdered and raped and done all kinds of terrible things to humanity, and the courts let them out. That's like this man, the man that killed those two deputies and wounded two other. There was a rumor. A lot of rumors are not true, so this may not be true. But there was a rumor, Alex, that this man had an idea that he had his gun, everything was loaded, his rifle was loaded, and he was going to stop a school bus on 65 right there at the intersection of 160 and 65. He was going to stop the school bus and shoot the bus driver and shoot as many kids as he could. Now, we don't ever know whether that was going to happen or whether that was true. But think about it. I know exactly what school bus he was talking about. I know what could have happened. And so, I just hope that you all will think, everyone will think about what would this country be like if we didn't have law and order. And I tell you what, they're not paid enough. They'll never be paid enough. They're kind of like our veterans. You could never repay them for all the things they've seen in their life and how it alters their life for the rest of their life if they come back alive. And so please give them some mercy and grace because they're only doing their job to protect us.
Yeah.
And so...
Lynn, I want to say this too. We are having this conversation with our family, and law and order, structure, discipline, those aren't bad words. Those are words that protect and that protect things we love, protect our character, protect our family. We have to get away from this mindset that some people are just created for this, and it just reminds me of what's happening locally all the way to nationally. And we'll get to some of those, but there's some people that just want to talk, and if it's in theory, they're theoretical people. They're the ones that hope and wish that bad things don't happen, that there's not bad actors in the world, that there aren't people that aren't crazy who don't think rationally and reasonably. And they, you look at what Obama did, the appeasement people, and they don't want to, they'll give these arbitrary red lines. It's like the dad who keeps saying to his kids, do you want me to take my belt off? Do you want me to take my belt off? And he never does anything, and he never disciplines the kids, and they eventually know, and they make a joke out of it. You know what's going to happen if I take my belt off? Yeah, your pants are going to fall down. He. And these kids grow up to be bad little kids that are causing all kinds of trouble and issue because they've never experienced the structure, the discipline that Hebrews chapter 12 talks about. God disciplines those that he loves, just like a good father does. Mm-hmm. And so discipline's not a bad thing. It protects our talent, it protects our character, it protects our reputation, it protects our lives. Mm-hmm. And we're supposed to teach that to children at a young age, that there's consequences to bad actions when you go outside of that. But unfortunately, there's some that don't want consequences. And, you see that happening, and it's terrible.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Reminds me, Alex, of when I was growing up, I used to box at the boys' club, and I was pretty good at it. And I remember as a freshman at Parkview High School in Springfield, Coach Dale Neth played college football. He was a Marine. He was a Marine first, and then when he graduated from college, he became a PE teacher, a coach. Coached football, and like you, he was a big guy, right. and he was a tough man, but he was a Marine. And I remember the very first class as a freshman in PE, we had two boys got into a fight. Well, we didn't know what was going to happen, and Coach Dale Neth let them fight for a little bit, and then he pulled them apart, and he's strong enough, he just pulled them apart. And then he said, boys, form a circle. And then, so we form a circle. We still didn't really know what was going on.
I know
and then he
going.
Laces the gloves on those two boys, and he had a paddle in his hand. Because back then, there was discipline in schools. Today, you're on the school board. I've been on the school board at Ozark, and we don't have discipline today in the schools like we need to have, honestly. And so these boys, they started to fight. Let me tell you what, if you've never had gloves laced on, they are heavy. They get heavy. They don't feel too heavy to begin with, but after you've exerted yourself a little bit, they get heavy. And what happens when they get heavy? You drop your hands down. So now you're not protecting yourself. Well, then the next thing, he would whack the guy, one of the boys on the bottom, he'd whack them, and they'd hit again. And when you get hit, you hit. It's kind of a counterpunching, so you kind of do this. And so pretty soon they were so tired. They were so tired that they didn't want to fight. And so he asked them, he said, are you guys through? Did you learn that you're not going to fight in my class? And he pointed around to all of us and he said, did everybody learn the lesson? Because if we have to do this every class, we will until you stop. We're not having this in my class. Yeah. You know what? Nobody ever fought again. We did exactly what we're supposed to do. Learn how to do things and exercise and stuff, but we never misbehaved in this class.
Yeah.
And that's why discipline is so important.
That's old school. That's old school, you know, and you don't see a lot of that nowadays. We just think that all conflict, even physical conflict, is bad. And sometimes, like, I have 4 boys, and, there's times, and my wife doesn't understand this. I'm like, hey, sometimes you got to let the boys work out some of that aggression, some of that. Now, I'm not trying to let them get hurt, but sometimes you got to let them exert themselves, their masculinity coming out. It's not toxic if you learn to corral it and train it and teach it. And so that's just a part of life, and that's a part of helping young boys learn there's consequences. Like my oldest son, he was a little bit bigger than my number 2 son. And, my number 2 son liked to talk some trash and had a mouth on him, and so, and my rule was don't punch anybody in the face, but, hey, don't do it around mom. But if you have to exert your authority, do that. And my number 2 son learned, hey, there's people you got to respect. And sometimes you got to keep your mouth shut. And so some of these lessons you got to learn.
Oh yeah, and you know, they couldn't do it today. Coach Del Neth would get in trouble if he did it today. But anyway, let's go on. So what else do you know that's going on in the county, over in the Nixa area, the west side of the county? Anything else going on before we move it to the state level?
Yeah, I mean, you have one of the things that I like to see, and I mean, this is, I know we're talking about real issues and stuff, but there's a lot of economic change and development going on in the Springfield, or excuse me, the Nixa, the Ozark area, and along with that comes some growing pains, if you will. A lot of construction going on, and I bring that up to say this: we want growth, we want development. We got to be patient. You got to be a little bit patient with traffic, with issues, with growing pains. So that's kind of one of the things I'll say. We just have to, traffic and frustration, and let's just be a little bit patient with each other.
You're exactly right. I mean, one of the things as presiding commissioner that I hear all the time is our road issues, our traffic. We're almost at 100,000. We'll be at 100,000 probably by the end of this year. And once that we do that, we're a first-class county. There's only 14 counties in the state are first-class counties. Christian County is one of the fastest-growing counties in the state. And when you have that honor, you also have problems and things, and so we have to be careful on planning and zoning and things like that we actually keep up and don't keep building too many apartments without having the infrastructure. We really need the infrastructure first, but it seems like you almost can't keep up with the infrastructure either at Nixa or Ozark, either one of the two largest towns. They both have 25. Nixa has larger. I think you guys are about 26,000 people. Ozark's not too far behind, but 3,000 or 4,000 behind, and infrastructure is going to be extremely important. And I serve on all three of the planning and zoning boards, and I do two of them in commission meetings, two different types, and then we do one, the big one, over at resource management, but for the county. But I always kind of dread them because we always make one group happy, Alex, and we make one group
That's how it
upset.
is.
I mean, you can't make everybody happy.
I think it's important for people to know what's going on if you're listening, because, and you know this, Lynn, we have how are you going to pay for these things? Personal property tax, that's on the, that's debating. Are we going to get rid of it? I know that our legislators want to get rid of that, personal property tax, the state income tax, even the taxes for the elderly. So those are things that are happening. Those are some kind of, if you will, the legislative fights that are going on in this area. We have our legislators that have passed bills that kind of are a little bit ambiguous, so they're figuring out how they're going to do this. And so I think people just need to be engaged. You need to know what's going on as far as with these personal property tax issues, the state income tax issues, because it will affect us. And I think a lot of times people don't pay attention until, well, how'd that happen? And so that's definitely something.
Well, I think that's important. So let's kind of switch on over to state, and then we'll go to federal and what's going on today with Iran and some areas. But I want to kind of make sure that people understand, just like Alex was talking about taxes. I'll tell you an interesting story. I'm going to be speaking next Monday over at Ozark High School at the Innovation Center in the auditorium to about 700, they told me 754 juniors, only juniors. I'm not speaking to the entire school. That would be over 2,000 students. I'm going to be speaking to 754 juniors that all are involved in a government class. 70 of them are in an advanced government class over at Ozark. And the interesting thing was I asked the teacher, he's been there 13 years, a really strong man. He's not going to let those kids know what his political views are. Okay? I like that. I like that he's just trying to teach them about government and not expressing his views. Interesting enough, I said to him, well, let me get a survey out to all your students and give me the results. I want one word. What do you you juniors think about government. I didn't say local government, federal government, state. I said government, one word. The majority of them, there was several words. Some of them are positive, but the word that got me the most was corrupt.
Really?
Corrupt was the number one word that these juniors used. Now, I want to tell you, I didn't take that personal because I don't think that's what those juniors thought. I think that's what their parents thought. I think that's what their parents think. And the parents, I think the students went home and asked their parents, and a lot of them said corrupt. And I agree. You and I will agree that I do think there's all aspects of life that are corrupt, okay? Yeah. And that's why we need Jesus. That's why we need God, because we all fall short of what we're supposed to be doing. So there are aspects of government, but I think it's up higher. That's why I thought you would be a good congressman. Because I think it's up higher than it is when you trickle back down to state and then go down to local. The most effect you have is local. That's why you need to get involved in local, okay? And pay attention to what they're doing. Get to know who's serving you locally, because they're gonna. I'm meeting with several constituents this afternoon, local, that have issues. We have appointments all afternoon. So, it's going to be interesting when I give that talk. My job is to convince them that local government is important, and while we may have some things that are wasteful and things that we don't do as good as we need to do, it's important for them to be patriotic and to love their country and to work with local people and work with government people and help make us better, okay? Help make us better. So that's going to be my job. But let's talk about taxes. You're exactly right. Right now, in the state of Missouri, we have over 60 tax bills, tax cut bills, everybody dislikes taxes. In fact, I don't use the word hate. I don't like that word. I never wanted my grandkids to use the word hate, but I told them you can say dislike or, but I don't like the word hate. But I hear a lot of people telling me down at the county level they hate their taxes. And some taxes are essential. In every branch of government, they are essential. They provide the services. So if you don't want the services, then don't pay your taxes. Keep cutting taxes, because we'll have no way to operate our state government. The interesting thing is, Alex, you talked about Missouri income tax. I want you all to know that in Missouri, we have some states. Florida is a great example. They don't have income tax. Yeah. Some of the other states don't have income tax. And our people in Missouri say, how come we can't be like them? Well, one of the reasons why it'd be hard to be like them is because Florida, they make all their money off tourism. So they can honestly do that.
And they get fees out the wazoo. If you've ever been to Orlando, the second you step at the airport, you got fees, the tram ride, everything's fees after fee.
Right. So it's a different type of state for Missouri. But here's the thing you all need to know in Missouri. $9 billion will be paid this April. $9 billion Missouri income tax. At the end, the state's going to refund about $700,000. So we're going to net $8.3 billion. Okay, that's what they're going to net. That's a lot of money. So if you eliminate that, phase that out over 3 or 4 years, like what they think they can do, how are they going to replace that $8 billion? How are they going to replace that? Well, fees and taxes. Fees, and I thought we didn't want to pay taxes. Well, no, they're going to have use tax. They're going to have a tax on every service. So, except for hospital, surgeries, they got 3 or 4 exceptions. And I don't think that people are going to like that either. You're going to have a tax on your oil change. You got to buy your oil, you got to buy your filter. Now you got to have a tax on the service that is provided. How about when your air conditioner breaks in the summertime? They usually do. pretty expensive sometimes. Well, you're going to have a tax on the service as well as the parts. I had to put a new garage door system in. It was over $1,200, and then I got to pay the labor. Well, I would have to pay tax on the labor.
Yeah.
Tax on getting your hair cut. Tax on getting your nails done.
I won't have that.
You don't. You're going to be lucky.
That
That's
one,
a tax you don't have to pay. But how about the women? They're going to have to pay a tax on getting their nails done. I mean, think about it. They want to put a tax on gasoline. Well, we already have in Missouri a tax on gasoline, but it's a road tax that MoDOT uses. But now we're going to have a separate tax that the state's going to get back.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's just important for people to know. Because I'm okay with people having different philosophies. Some people say, "Well, I want it this way." Some people say, "I want it that way." And as long as we are educated and we know what's going on, that's what voting is for.
Yeah.
And exercise your right to vote for what you believe. And then once we vote, we got to swallow it, and we all got to move forward with what we decide.
you're exactly right. So that's, I guess, what I was going to say next is as long as government always allows our citizens to vote on taxes, because we had a gasoline tax that they voted on after I got out of the legislature that they didn't let the people vote on gasoline and diesel. I would never, even though if I thought I needed a tax, I wouldn't put it without putting it to the people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pass it.
That's good.
We just can't do it. The people need to always have a say. And that's where you have good government. And then you're right. Once it's voted, whether it's to your liking or not, we have to support that. And if there's a way to convince people that we need to change it, then we need to vote again.
You know what, Lynn, you said that with those high school juniors that they thought corrupt. I think some of that is the parents, but these kids are all over TikTok. They're all over social media.
They're being, I think, sometimes brainwashed by all the other propaganda that they see.
That is true.
They need to be careful.
But here's another thing that they see. They see and hear about the fraud that's happening in Minneapolis with
and
Somali.
there is,
and that's where they a lot of times will look and say, they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I mean, not all governments are corrupt. Not all state governments are corrupt. Some of them are. And then, because my kids, we have these conversations. They're frustrated because it seems like no one is held accountable. Like right now in the state of Minnesota with Governor Tim Walz, they're like, my kids are asking me, how's he still the governor when there's $18 billion worth of fraud and that's some of our money? And then the kids start to make jokes on TikTok and on Instagram about, there's 98 people that have been arrested. Most of them are Somali. I think 85 of the 98 that have been arrested are Somali, but you can't talk. So the kids are seeing this stuff. Yeah. They're frustrated, and now they're become disenfranchised because they're going, is anything going to be done? My kids are like, how can he still be the governor if he allowed these billions of dollars worth of our fraud happening in our country, in their state? You're
exactly right, because they see that, they think, oh, they can get away with that. And I'm hoping they don't get away with it. Today in Congress, today in D.C., the governor and the attorney general of Minnesota is going to be in front of Congress today. And they're going to have some tough questions because the federal government now has gone back and they believe, and they have a case that they're working on, Department of Justice, that back up to 2019, going backwards to 2019, they think they can prove that the governor and the attorney general was aware of the problems going on.
So, it's tough. I mean,
we'll see.
We hope that it happens. We with a couple of our kids, we were watching the news last night, and I don't know if you saw, but I think it was yesterday that Bill Clinton was before Congress, and over the last couple of days, he has Eric Burleson got the chance to ask him some questions, but we're watching him talk about, his involvement with Epstein. And my 19-year-old, when Bill Clinton was asked a question about some girl in the hot tub, and he gave a little eyes, my kid goes, he's lying. That's when people lie. And I'm sitting here going, if my 19-year-old knows this, and it's sad because we want accountability. And the sad reality is, because the social media closes everything down, these kids are able to put their information out there, and they get these little influencers, and they feel like nothing is being done. And so they're just like, well, the system's broken. And I'm afraid they're going to disengage or even participate in the fraud. Nancy Pelosi, everybody knows she's been insider trading forever. These young kids, about 4 or 5 years ago, my oldest son Trey told me about this. They started to track her stock trends, because you can get them like a year or a week or a month later, you can see which stock she ends up buying and stuff. So they started to track hers, and they were a week or a month behind. But these kids are now millionaires because they just buy the stocks that she's bought with her insider trading stuff. Yeah. It's sad, and it's just a bad situation.
And a lot of people in Congress, I bet you have done that. She may be the best at it.
She's the best at it.
But honestly, a lot of people have done it probably, and they really shouldn't, and we know that's illegal. And the only person that really ever got put in prison on is our famous lady that
Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart. I mean, kind of a grandma lady, nice lady, good cook, and she gets in trouble for it. But some of these other people that serve in Congress, they haven't got in trouble for it. But
everybody knows, and I mean, I hate to go on the rabbit trail, but you talk about real issues, and I see it with the younger generation. We have, even in our house, we got our 19-year-old, our middle son's a freshman at Missouri State, and we make sure that our kids are actively involved in knowing what's going on. Yeah. My number 4 son, he's a junior at Nixon, and my daughter's 16. She's probably the most politically, aware, other than my oldest boy. But I send them, when we started this war in Iran, conflict in Iran, it's not a war. I sent them the 8-minute speech of Trump, and I was like, hey, Bryants need to know what's going on. So my kids are aware, and then they ask me questions. Yeah. But it is sad because you see all of these things that's happening, and we as parents have to work these issues that we're faced with to say, hey, we know it's happening, we know it's going on, but we still have to have hope and faith, and we have to go and try to make a difference. Even if it's a small difference, we have to try to stay engaged and make a difference, not just throw up our hands and say, everybody's doing it, who cares? And so that's kind of what we try to do.
Yeah, well, so everyone out there, parents and grandparents, make sure Alex and his wife are perfect role models for what a parent should be doing. You should be talking to your kids every night, during dinner, after dinner, when they're studying, whatever, all the things that Jan and I used to do after we cleared the kitchen table. Everybody had jobs. Our 3 kids had jobs to do, and then we all sat around the table and studied for a while. Then they could go onto their own rooms and study. But parents and grandparents have a lot of responsibilities to talk to your kids and listen. You got not just talk to them, you got to listen to them, and because they've got a lot of questions, and you can help them. Well, let's go on to. We're going to run out of time, so let's talk about what's going on now in Iran and why we're doing it, and we've heard a lot of positive things. We hear a lot of negative things. People need to kind of study that, juggle that together, and hopefully, I hope that a lot of people, some of the negative things I'm hearing is not just so much because you hate President Trump. There's so much hatred out there in this world, but you just can't hate one man so much that you're always negative about everything else that's going on in the country right now. You got to hope and pray a lot that our country continues to succeed and God is with us all the time. That's why we've won so many wars. Yeah. We've won wars that we shouldn't have won, that no other country would have won. And we won it because God helped create our Constitution. He helped form our republic. If we hadn't had God in the middle of our founding fathers, this country wouldn't be here today.
You said hopefully people don't hate Trump so much that they can see the bigger picture. I look at it like this. I expect non-Christian people to be confused, to be deranged about what's happening. The Bible talks about this. But I don't expect those of us who have Christ in our heart, the Holy Spirit that lives inside of us, I expect us to be able to see with our spiritual eyes what's happening, to find the good in it. When we don't understand it, to take it to the Lord in prayer instead of going to Facebook and just bashing or tearing down what's happening. There's just a wisdom in stopping and praying when you don't understand. That's what we try to teach with our kids.
Yeah.
I found it very sad and disturbing. This is just this morning. And yesterday, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat leader, and I hate, and I don't look at all Democrats as being evil people.
No, I've got some good friends that are Democrats.
Yeah. Well, I said this: I'm black, and if you're born in Florida in the South, if you're black, you're Baptist and you're Democrat. That's usually just the way it is. And so most of my family, are Democrat and Baptist. I'm neither one of those, by the way. I'm Pentecostal and neither. But so I don't think that all Democrats are bad, but it's not good when the leader, the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, goes on CNN last night and says that this mission is going to end in failure. We're only 4 days in. We have troops in harm's way. Some of our family members, our oldest surrogate son and his wife, both are serving in the military. And you got National Guardsmen out of Iowa who had just, or reserve members out of Iowa who had just, the four of them were from Iowa. They just lost their life. And Hakeem Jeffries is going on national TV in the middle of this conflict and saying that this is going to end in failure. That's terrible. That is, and we have to be able to call that out and to say what it is. But I would just encourage any of my Christian brothers and sisters, even if you don't like Trump, you have to support our troops. You have to support what's going on because our commander-in-chief decided that he is going to make the decision to send our troops into harm's way. And we as Christians have to be able to rise above that and to look at the bigger picture. I can see good in it. I had, as a matter of fact, and I told you this earlier, I had former Attorney General John Ashcroft on my podcast just yesterday, and we talked about this Iran conflict. And if you want to listen to it, it's anywhere you get your podcast. It's called The Way We See It, and or you can go to our website, alexbryant.org, and you can listen to that podcast with former Attorney General John Ashcroft. And he was, he was just reminding us that this is a just war, that these Iranians for 47 years have been saying we are the great Satan, America, and they want to get a nuclear weapon to wipe us off the face of the earth. And so the president, former Attorney General Ashcroft, was reminding us that he was well within his rights. I think it's the Military Powers Act gives the president 2 months, 60 days to be able to perform limited military operations without congressional approval. At the end of that time, he has to go to Congress and get approval. But right now, what President Trump is doing is not illegal. It is not a declaration of war. And it was necessary because and John Ashcroft said this, the Iranians that are the number one state sponsor of terror, they have hated, and he used the word hate, United States for 47 years, and now they are trying to develop a nuclear weapon, military-grade uranium that they are enriched, and they have missiles that can reach Israel, and a lot of times even they're close to, if they don't already have nuclear weapons that can reach the United States. This was necessary to save American lives, and I'm thankful that we have a president that has the guts to make a tough decision.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Alex. I mean, we've had so many presidents that has drawn the line, both Republicans and Democrats, and they'll say, here's the red line. Do not cross this red line. Do not kill these Americans. Don't kill Israel. This is the red line. And then Iran, other enemies, they go across the line. Then what do our leaders do in the past? Here's the red line.
Here's another one.
Now, I'm warning you, don't cross this red line and kill us. And what happens?
They
cross the red line.
Lynn, it was like when I was saying before, like the dad who says, "Don't make me take my belt off."
Yeah.
If you don't ever take your belt off and do something, the kids are going to know.
Pretty soon, those kids are going to realize you're bluffing. You're bluffing me. That's what Iran believes. They believe you're bluffing. We're going to continue to do it. You know, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. We were talking about that before the show started. It took two gigantic jet planes with hundreds of millions of dollars.
Billions. It was in the billions.
Was it billions?
Yes.
Billions.
They took out all the seats and put pallet loads of cash.
Pallet loads of cash.
That's crazy.
That President Obama wanted to give Iran, and they took it. And what do you think? And he wanted to do it because he wanted to keep them from. He wanted them to not hurt us, not to fight us, not to kill our people. That's the payoff. That's the payoff. Well, that's not what you're never going to hurt Iran by giving them money. I believe that President Trump was correct, and it's like sooner or later, sometime they were going to. This country is so lucky. Besides 9/11, a terrible, terrible thing that happened in New York, we don't have bombs coming down. We don't have bomb shelters in all our homes and buildings and office buildings like Israel has. When the whistles blow and the warnings go off, a lot of them can seek shelter, even as citizens. We don't have.
Well, Lynn, can I just tell you that this is the reality, because I've talked to people that were over there right after October 7th when the bombs are coming. I've talked to people that literally were in the hotels and going down to a bomb shelter. The reality that the Israelites live under is they have apps on their phones that tell them what the bombs are being launched. They can track the missiles and stuff. Can you imagine as an American, having to have an app on your phone where you have to track if a missile's coming in?
Yeah.
And all of them, all the homes, all the hotels, most of the businesses have bomb shelters in the bottom that you just regularly go into. They have toys in the bomb shelters so that the kids can play with when they're down there. That's just the reality.
Yeah, and we don't have that in this country, so we're not protected.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a president that's going to stop it from the best protection, the best safety is to stop it from happening.
Absolutely.
Not try to figure out what you're going to do after they tear up all your buildings and kill all the people. Yeah. So I agree. And I mean, you know, President Trump, I don't think that, I can't imagine any president that wants to be in war. And I think this is going to keep us from being in war.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Trump is making decisive action, and I think it's important to remember too that in addition to what our past presidents have done, which is try to appease or buy off Iran from developing a nuclear weapon, and because they're enriching uranium, they've been saying for years, we just want to have a power plant. You know, we just want to have a power plant. Well, there's a difference between nuclear weapons for power than military grade. And I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but it's the enrichment above like 60% or something like that.
Yeah.
And Iran, when Trump came on the picture, first of all, too, they'd already sent a squad that was trying to assassinate Trump. So he knows this is going on. Trump and through Rubio and our negotiators said, listen, Iran, we will give you nuclear power for life, for residential, but you just have to stop this enriching uranium. And over the last couple of days before we conduct this military strike, Iran's like, no, we are close to having 11 nuclear weapons to be able to do what we want to with it. It's too late for you. And they thought they could just spit in our face. And so Trump tried to negotiate with them, but they said no, they didn't want to. So he struck decisively. And some of the people that have the luxury of going on Facebook, going on media and saying that you don't like this president, you have the luxury because our military is keeping you safe enough to do that.
That's right.
And that's the reality.
Yeah. Think about what Iran did. The people that were protesting just a few weeks ago, 30,000 plus people got killed on the streets because they were holding signs and wanting a change in their government. And so what does the government do? They shoot them.
Yeah.
They kill them.
Lynn, you know
things
what?
like that. So,
and I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but I want people to get this. They were saying when these young people were protesting on the streets, they had snipers up in the buildings that were shooting them in the head.
Yeah.
That's the reality of what was happening over there. Using machine guns, using snipers.
That country, that type of mentality and things like that. I would just say this: we got to get ready and close, but Pray for our country. Pray for our leadership. Pray for our military.
Yeah.
Pray for all our people. Pray. Be positive. Ask for guidance. Ask for help. Don't be being unpatriotic at this time. My gosh, be a patriot. Be an American. This is the best country in the world. We're not perfect. We're not perfect. We'll never be perfect. You know when we're going to be perfect? When we get to go to heaven,
Amen.
We will be in a perfect place. Not now, but we're in the best place we can be. We're the best place we can be.
That's good.
All right. Hey, so next week we are going to go back to our part 2 of the flock cameras, the license plate cameras. We'll have Ron Sanders back, and we're going to have a presiding commissioner from Camden County that's been trying to get them out of his county. And so we're going to be talking to those people. We had a very interesting discussion before. And then we're going to have something that I think is timely right now. I've got someone that's been in the mental health business that has helped a lot of people over the years in Christian County. She has a business called Touchstone, and she does a lot of mental counseling. And there's all kinds of things. There's things like anxiety and depression and all kinds of stuff. We're going to go over all of those things because this is a time when we do know that people are fearful. There's a lot of worry and stuff like that. And so she's going to give some really good hints and information about how we can have good mental health. It's not just physical health. We need mental health.
Good.
And we need it now. Okay? And so I think that's really going to be good. What's your last word you want to say today to our people?
You know, I love what you said. It. Let's pray. You know, in prayer, when we connect with God, He gives us the hope. It's not the hope of what's going on or happening right now. You know, bad things are going to happen, but God's still in control. And God loves you. He loves me. And ultimately, each of us, when all this is over, we can still know where we have the hope for eternity. And when we put our trust and our hope and our faith in Jesus Christ.
Well, very good, very good. So we'll be back next week. Be sure, 4321ACTS@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. I tell you what, everyone in Acts Ministry, we're all volunteers. We love you. We want this country to succeed. We want you and your family to succeed. Be sure and tune in next week. We'll have another great show. Thank you. God bless.
God bless.